without transition, we're going into virtual worlds now with Susan Hu. Susan, could you come up on stage? So let me introduce you to Susan Hu, who is a former venture capitalist. Hello, Susan. And Susan is, maybe we should have you over there. And Susan is now the CEO of a company called ohai. Ohai? Ohai. We should put Susan on. And Susan is extremely knowledgeable on virtual goods. And we met very recently, and I asked Susan if she could give us a presentation on that, because I personally think I may be wrong, but we would be two of us and many, many more. That is going to be a very interesting way of generating revenue for new companies, and one that will grow big. When you talk about it, virtual goods to people, they say, well, it's like those, like those Google, like contextual advertising 7 years ago. Nobody thought it would be big. Now it's billions, and I think it's maybe billions already.
Yeah,
Suzanne, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Absolutely. And I actually think that the topic of virtual goods fits in really well with me be talking about here today, which is all about love, passion, hope, idealism. Because virtual goods is really all about capturing people's passion and enthusiasm and figuring out how to monetize it. So while you guys are all out there, I'd like a show of hands. How many of you out there are building consumer services, consumer web services? All right, so most of you. How many of you who are building consumer web services are monetizing via virtual goods today? So very few of you. I would say that all of you who are building consumer web services who aren't monetizing via virtual goods, you're missing out. And so my presentation is all about virtual goods and why you should care about it as a very powerful monetization stream. So I'm not a household name like Paulo, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. As Loic mentioned, I was most recently a venture capitalist investing in consumer web companies. Prior to that, I was very active in the open source community. I was the chief marketing officer for the Apache Software Foundation. I started off my career as a programmer building multiplayer online games. And as many of you probably can attest to, I'm Susan Wu in the real world, but I also have all these different personas on Skype, on Habbo Hotel, on Catster, on World of Warcraft, et cetera, et cetera. I live in all these different online communities. And my question that I want to help you answer today is, why would people spend hard-earned cash on objects that have no tangible substance? It seems ludicrous, right? People spending billions of dollars a year on things that only exist in a database somewhere. Well, the answer we will uncover in this presentation, but here's a hint. It's a lot about love. So let me first correct some of the misconceptions that people commonly have about virtual goods. One of the first misconceptions is that virtual goods have no value because they aren't real. Well, the reality is that there are many intangible things in the real world that we value quite highly. Brands, for example, Coca-Cola has billions of dollars of an intangible asset on their balance sheet solely because of how valuable the brand is. Spirituality, religion, blessings, prayer, these are also intangible goods that we place an incredible amount of value on. Money, when Nixon moved away from the gold standard in 1971, money essentially became a symbolic reference to the trust that you have in your governments and institutions to back that trust. And finally, this last image is from the movie Gladiator, love. Love is the most intangible thing in the real world that we place the highest amount of value on. As Helen Fisher mentioned, we fought wars, we have gone and created empires solely out of love. The second misperception that I like to correct about virtual goods is that they're just for games and virtual worlds. Well, the reality is that the world's largest seller of virtual goods is a communications platform. Tencent is China's leading consumer internet platform. They do about $1 billion of revenue each year, and about 70% of that revenue comes from virtual goods sales, much of it through their instant messaging platform. They only generate 13% of their revenue through online advertising, and through this kind of model, they're able to achieve an astounding 45% operating margin. So this should correct your perception that virtual goods are only for fun, playground type of virtual worlds, and they aren't really for serious businesses. The third misconception that I like to correct is that virtual goods are mostly for customizing your avatars. Well, the reality is that there are many different categories of virtual goods. I like to lump them into three broad categories: decorative, functional, and behavioral. How many of you guys have played Super Poke on Facebook? Super Poke is a virtual goods platform. Every time you send a poke to someone, you're sending them a little icon and whatever action it is that you associate with that icon. But that is absolutely a virtual good. It's a behavioral virtual good. Here's an example of a functional virtual good. I don't know if you can see it so well, but this is a screenshot of IMView. IMView is a social platform that's very graphical in nature. And here on this screenshot, what they're doing is that they're selling names. So if you go and visit IMView as a guest, all users begin with their login names as being _guest, whatever your name is. So I would be _guest Susan. Well, in order for me to actually get my name Susan, I have to spend $6.95 to upgrade to that name. And then if I want a special name, a name like Bella Angel or Anthony or any other one of these names that they've reserved, it'll cost me another 100,000 credits. This is a functional virtual good. And the reason why you guys should care about virtual goods, at the heart of virtual goods are passion, relationships, and interaction. Anytime you have people relating to each other or interacting with each other, there's an opportunity for you to capture that transactional value through the sale of a virtual good. And I do firmly believe that virtual goods are the next big consumer business model. The reason why Tencent became a virtual goods platform is because there was no advertising market in China, and they had to find more creative ways to monetize their 300 million users, and they did it by selling virtual goods. So let me talk a little bit about why people buy virtual goods. There's 4 major reasons. The primary reason, as I've already alluded to, is that virtual goods are a way of capturing passion and interaction. So this is Loic's gift box on Facebook. You can see that he's received a number of cupcakes and champagne from his friends. And gifting in this case is a verb, right? Gifting is something that you do to other people. But it really has 3 components. 1, there's the gift itself, representing by the graphical icon of this cupcake that he's received from Dave McClure. 2, there's the gesture that I get as a sender of that cupcake of sending my affection. I'm getting some benefit just by sending Loic a cupcake because I feel good and I'm exchanging some bit of goodwill with him. And the 3rd component of gifting is that there's a trophy effect that Loic has or experiences because of other people seeing the gift that I sent him. So as I mentioned, virtual goods are a way of capturing passion, interaction, any kind of human relationship. There's all kinds of emergent behaviors in virtual goods. As a provider of consumer internet services, you can either provide a structured environment and start to capture that value yourself, or you can start seeing sites like TipJoy emerge. TipJoy is really interesting, and I don't think you can see it so clearly on the screen, but I will be happy to put my slides on SlideShare. In the bottom right, you'll see that this user, iBetching, has given $62.74 to basically 80 sites, including YouTube, Wonket, all these different blogs and services and people that he's encountered over the last few months. He's just tipping them. Anytime he gets value from them, he gives them 25 cents. Anytime he sees an article that he finds interesting, he gives them $1, $1.50. If someone does him a favor, he'll tip them. And this is the kind of emergent behavior that I would categorize as very unstructured virtual good behavior. So why do people buy virtual goods? Reason 2 and reason 3. So I don't know, how many of you guys played World of Warcraft out here? All right, so not too many. You guys are very serious. You're off building real businesses and such. But there was a recent expansion pact in World of Warcraft that was announced last month. And as a result, there was a new kind of mount. A mount is something that you ride like a horse. This mount, which is the Tundra mount, costs 18,000 gold in World of Warcraft. If I'm a normal player of World of Warcraft, it would probably take me 50 or 60 hours to make that 18,000 gold. Alternatively, I could go to the free markets and spend $200 or $300 and get my mount immediately. So I do the internal calculation, is my time worth more than $3 an hour? I mean, some days it is, some days it's not, but for the most part it is. So I'm probably going to be pretty likely to spend the $300 instead of working for the 18,000 gold that it's going to cost me to buy this mount in the game. Also, reason number 3, virtual goods create real value. What I mean by that is after I've bought the mount, my game experience is so much better. I can travel faster, I don't have to experience as much downtime, and so therefore investing in that virtual good had a real payoff to me. People also buy virtual goods because of entrepreneurship opportunities and the growing secondary markets. This is a screenshot from IMView. In IMView, there are over 100,000 entrepreneurs selling goods into the system. Anshay is a particularly successful entrepreneur. Her brand is becoming basically the IKEA of virtual worlds. So she sells all kinds of furniture and equipment through her page on IMView. What this all means, just to sum it up, since I'm running out of time, if your users are interacting or building relationships, you can monetize via virtual goods. And your community is going to participate in these virtual economies with or without your structured or implicit approval. And so therefore, I think it's good for all of us to find ways to capture the passion from these verbs, behaviors users are already participating in your sites. Since I'm out of time, what I'd like to say is you can find me at twitter.com/SusanWu, and I'd be happy to talk to you any more or anytime you want about virtual goods. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.